Greetings, this is Thungon, and this is the first episode of a new series that will be on my channel. This series will be basic, and maybe not so basic, tips that I have for creating custom maps in Minecraft. And these tips will be for any type of maps, from adventure to CTM to PvP based maps. And I believe, and just like I believe everybody is at, nobody, not the best adventure map makers, not the best CTM map makers, nobody has all the answers to map making, not even in their own genre. That is my turtle. Always interrupting. It's very annoying. But nobody holds all the correct answers, and that includes me. I'm not pretending like I know everything with this series, because I definitely do not know everything. I'm just pointing out a few tips that I have. You can make out of it what you want. You could not believe them at all. You could follow them till the end of the world, or whatever you want to take. However you want to take it. That's how I feel. But enough with the disclaimers, and back to the topic of episode 1 of this series, and that is how to start off making the map you are making. Well, after planning, of course, but there are a few ways to start off, and for most maps are adventure maps, and most adventure maps start off in naturally generated world, like this world right here. Maybe not a tree with lamps on them, but in a world like this, many adventure maps start, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be very careful about caves like that one, because you want to keep the flow on adventure maps going along the path you want, and not redirected down areas that you do not want, like random caves. But naturally generated maps do offer a lot of pre-built land, a lot of naturally built stuff that you could easily work on, and it will take only a little bit of searching through random seeds, or even through a seed that you've found that looks cool, to build something that's you're inspired to build. And I think that's a good starting point for brand new map makers, and especially if they want to try out an adventure map. So I have a couple of pre-saved worlds, and I want to continue on. Most CTM maps start off with a world like this. Sorry. And a world like this is a world completely from Y0 to Y256. It's made completely out of stone. And worlds like this are good for cave worlds. They're good for CTM style maps, and they're good for survival maps where you want to control resources entirely. You do not want people to find their own ores. You do not want to have strip mining. You want to have diamonds accessible only at one point, or iron accessible only one point, because those are item progression, through the survival map. To get an iron bucket, it's pretty big. To get a tree even is pretty big. And this is one way to start off with the CTM map, is a solid a solid basis, a solid rock formation, or it could even be sandstone if you want to control how much stone they receive. And it could be made of anything, but it goes from the very surface of the world with all the lightning glitches on the top all the way down to bedrock. And this is fairly easy to do in MC Edit. You'll create a new world, go to Flatlands, and then after that you want to convert it to Anvil, which allows you to build up to 256, but you just set the whole thing to stone. And for completeness sake, you might want to do a bedrock floor so people can't dig themselves out of the world, because that's unnecessarily cruel. But this is just a place to start for some CTM maps or other maps where you want to control resources and resource gathering entirely. And that's just one way to do it. Another way to start off a CTM or survival map is through an ocean world, just like this one. Basically, you do the same thing in MC Edit, where instead of changing stuff to stone, you change it to water instead, and then you could create your islands and control resources entirely this way, where you don't have to, you're not completely in the cave. You could see sunlight and have time of day affect the survival aspect of the map, and you could work off from an ocean world. And for other genres, and what I've always, every map I've started on, I've completed, it has been a PvP based map so far, with the exception of my, dang it, turtle, of my Ultimate Maze collection, which is an adventure map, because I do not want people to place and break blocks in that map, and I started with a naturally generated world in that map. But all my Race for Wool and all my PvP maps or PvP collabs have started off in a blank world, where you have nothing but void all around you. And this is actually the exact copy of the blank world I start with, which is just a small platform for yourself and for others on the server to spawn on without falling through the void continuously, as well as a place to use voxel brushes and whatnot, so you have a place to start and to work off a PvP based map from there. And the reason why you want to do PvP based maps in a completely blank world is to control a symmetry. You want PvP based maps to be perfectly symmetrical, either rotationally or flip. So like you could either have this be one side and this be the other, or it flipped like this. Oh. So something like that to, well, no, that's unsymmetrical. But symmetry is very important, and in order to mirror one side to the other easily, it's good to have a void lane, and void lanes are good for barriers for PvPs, so gameplay doesn't expand too far beyond the boundaries of the map. I mean, in airships, you could bridge outwards from the airships. I'm talking about Detroit's Airship Battles map. You could expand outwards away from the whole scene, but that's kind of anti-productive to the PvP style. And this is just a way to start off a PvP map, and how I've started off all of my PvP maps. Of course, you could have a cave world or an ocean world be a center place of a PvP map instead of a void, but you just really want to watch out for symmetry in those maps, and the void world is the easiest to make sure you have everything right and to really define the boundaries of the map entirely. And the last bit is getting a little bit fancier. The last way to start off a world to begin creating a map. But the beauty of it, actually, let me first say that this way that I'm going to mention is very complicated. It's very technical. You have to really deal with a lot of config files. But a plugin called Terrain Control allows you to customize. Dang it! I have to prioritize that now. You could customize what biomes you want to spawn, how they spawn. You could even control what trees they spawn. You can control how often caves spawn. You can control ores down to what type, and you can even make your own types. You could do some crazy stuff with terrain control. It does require a lot of technical stuff, but the amount of possibilities you have with terrain control is amazing. And with it, you could begin adventure maps. Like this is a sneak peek on the adventure map that I've recently begun, and will probably continue building on camera on stream. But as you can see, I have some crazy tall mountains and a forest that has a mixture of trees, from jungle trees to normal trees, and both of these biomes will spawn continuously, provided that I'm on the server that I'm running that has all the config files available. Terrain Control does have a single player version. Don't need a server to run it, but as you can see, it's either mountains, rivers, or forest. Nothing else will generate as long as you have the config files running. And the stone in that direction from my pointer is custom made, as well as the white dots, so ignore those. But you could create some tall mountains. You could theoretically create a cave world. You could theoretically create a void world by removing the possibility of spawning blocks or increasing spawning blocks. You can make it an endless ocean with realistic ocean floors. And you can control ores and resources very, very precisely. So Terrain Control is good for adventure and survival maps. I would not really classify it very good for PvP maps because it is random, and random will never be fully symmetrical. Well, it's a very, very, very slim chance, I guess, but never reliably, and very the wrong path to take if you want to do a PvP map on a map like this. Because PvP maps' #1 goal should be symmetry. That's the most important function, and everybody I've talked to in the PvP community agrees that symmetry, non-symmetrical maps are pretty much downcast. But with every other genre you could possibly think of, Terrain Control could, provided you could run the config files properly, do it all for you, including create these custom mountains and this custom world without having to do it yourself, which is quite nice. And as you can see, we're in a mushroom biome, but that was a different plugin, and that will be for next time, because I believe these are good tips to help you figure out how to get started with an idea you might have for any custom map of any genre you have. And I'll continue this series in episode 2, where I'll discuss another tip, probably generic again. Might be a while before I get to very specific tips, because I have a lot to cover, and generic is the best way to go. I feel specific tips might be good for developer commentaries to a map they've created, because then they could focus on one certain genre that they made it in and things like that. But for now, I'm going to focus on tips that will be useful for any genre you create a map in, and I hope you gain something from this. Links to my blank map, because I have an easy access copy to that. A link to where you could get train control, which would be an SMP to run on a local server, which is how I run it, or single player, which will run it just fine. It's just slightly different and slightly different configs. So, and I don't know all the configs for this, so don't come asking me. But you can create some cool stuff, and I'll stop rambling. I hope you gathered something for this, and I'll see you in episode 2 of the series. And this is Thungon. See ya!